What's going on, guys? I'm IcyRhythms. Welcome back. And in this video, you can see that I am very disappointed with this PlayStation 1 Classics list. And for me, it just boils down to what many of you know. I've said it countless times. I'm sure I'll say it many more times. The PlayStation 1 N64 generation is my favorite. I can't see that changing anytime soon. Maybe if I got back into consoles in a big way or something, and that could change with the PlayStation 5 or the next box generation or something, or get a Switch at some point. Maybe. It's unlikely that it'll change, but this is a very special generation for me, and this list to me is unacceptable. So what we're going to do is break it down, and I'm going to give you 8 games that I like, just objectively speaking, and some games subjectively speaking. I feel, yeah, they should stay. They're just PlayStation classics. I think a lot of people would probably agree that those games belong there. So we'll have those 8 games, and then we'll talk about 12 other games that I feel should have been there. And I think, again, objectively speaking, subjectively speaking, some of those games, most of those games I did play, but some of you will also agree, even with the games that I didn't play, that, yeah, those probably should have been there. I think this list it's just unacceptable. Like, this is the PlayStation 1 Classic. You gotta have better games. So for $100, correct me if I'm wrong, the price is $99.99, you are getting Destruction Derby. So we're gonna keep Destruction Derby as one of the 8 games. I think it, just objectively speaking, I think it's a good game. I think it's fun. It is a classic PlayStation experience, but I don't think it's something that I would necessarily pick just subjectively speaking. But objectively speaking, we're gonna keep it. Final Fantasy VII, that just makes sense. It is what it is. It's Final Fantasy VII. It was a very successful game because of the PlayStation. Though I would prefer 8. I would absolutely 110% prefer 8. Some of you already know that. We're getting 7. And I'm not saying that we can't put 8 elsewhere, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Metal Gear Solid is it's simply one of the greatest games ever made. Yes, that game should be there. If they didn't include this game, that would be a huge crime for gaming. Like, you have to have Metal Gear Solid on the PlayStation 1 Classic. I mean, so many developers today, I guarantee you, the ones that have been doing it for, 10, 15, 20 years or something, they have been influenced in some way by that game. It was, just one of the first games that really just took cinematic experiences in gaming to the next level, and it deserves a lot of credit. And like I said, it's just one of the best games ever made. Resident Evil Director's Cut. I mean, this is an easy pick, right? But I think most people would probably agree that it should have been Resident Evil 2. Some people would probably even prefer Resident Evil 3. The pick is fine. It makes sense, objectively speaking. But I think most people, including myself, would have preferred Resident Evil 2. But with the remake coming out, or the reimagining, however you want to see that, coming out in January, not even that long of a wait at this point, I guess, we can kind of forgive that because that game looks fantastic. Siphon Filter, again, it's a very good game. It just makes sense to be here. I think, again, myself, along with some of you guys, would have probably picked something else in its place, but I'm not saying it doesn't deserve to be here. So I think it makes sense, and we are going to keep it in the should stay list of these 8 games. Tekken 3, again, it's a good game, but I think people probably would have preferred the first game or even the second game, like myself. But Tekken 3 it's not a bad pick. It's not anything I would look at and say this is trash. This doesn't deserve to be here. You got to have a Tekken game. Twisted Metal, I'm fine with. I'm fine with this pick, but kind of like the Resident Evil thing or the Final Fantasy VII thing for me. And I think in the case of Twisted Metal, a lot of other people as well, Twisted Metal 2 is the easy choice here, right? Twisted Metal, the original game, was the first Sony exclusive that I ever played. It was my first experience with, a Sony game, and that game will always hold its own place for me. But Twisted Metal 2 is the better game. It just is that way. It's just a superior experience, but it's not a bad choice. That's why I'm keeping it in the should stay list. Wild Arms, also a fantastic choice, great RPG. Some of you that have never played it before may get to experience it now if you're going to go out and buy this day one. It's a good choice. So those are the 8. I think we have 8. Those are the 8 that should stay. Now, for the 12 games that I picked that I feel should be there, we're going to break it down, and I've removed the other 12. So link in the description for the actual list versus the list that I feel should exist. So these picks coupled with the other 8 is the way I feel this should have looked. Objective picks as well as subjective picks. Loaded. This game should have made the PlayStation Classics. How do you not have Loaded in this list? I don't know. Suikoden 1 or 2, both great picks. Can't go wrong either way. Legend of Dragoon. This one, a lot of people kind of feels like an overrated RPG. They don't know why people hype it up and really love the game. I think it should have made the list. Gran Turismo 2, I feel it's a really good pick. I was never really into Gran Turismo or the Sim Forza games. That's not really for me. I was always more of an arcade racer guy, which, you know, if this was like a 25 or a 30 type of list, I would pick Need for Speed, the original Need for Speed. I would have that in the list as well. I would definitely take that over Gran Turismo, but Gran Turismo 2, just an objective pick, even though I'm not really into those games. I think you have to have that in a PlayStation Classics list. Parasite Eve, how the hell do you not have Parasite Eve in this list? I can't grasp that. My mind won't allow me to understand how you don't have Parasite Eve. Silent Hill, how do you not have Silent Hill? You have Resident Evil, but you don't have Silent Hill. I'm not saying that Silent Hill is better. I've never really felt that way. I'm just saying, how do you not have Silent Hill on this list? Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. I mean, we're talking about another game that is one of the greatest games of all time. I think a lot of people would probably agree. I definitely do. This is one of the better Tony Hawk games. This was an amazing game. It just so much fun. I was never a skater. Like, that wasn't even my thing, but I really liked playing some of those early Tony Hawk games. You have to have Pro Skater 2 on this list, and they don't. Tomb Raider 1 or 2 would have been a really good pick. There's no Tomb Raider games. How do you not have Tomb Raider games? I think back in the day when people thought about Tomb Raider, even though some of the games were on other platforms, people thought about PlayStation first. You got to have Tomb Raider 1 or 2. I just don't understand. I don't know how you mess that up. I just don't. It's not as bad as the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater thing or the Twisted Metal 2 not being there as opposed to the first game, but it's still a little bit of a crime. Final Fantasy Tactics, a lot of people swear by this game. They feel it's the best Final Fantasy game. How do you not have this on the list? I mean, I guess it might upset some people if you have multiple Final Fantasy games or something, but you're not going to like the rest of my list if you're feeling that way. So Tecmo's Deception 1 or 2, this was definitely a subjective pick. Some of you probably don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. Tecmo's Deception 1 or 2, those games are amazing. Absolutely amazing. It's just, you're in this mansion. The second game, I can't remember, I think it might also be a mansion, and you just set these traps, and you can buy new traps, and there's upgrades and stuff, and these people come in, these enemies, different enemy types, some weak, some stronger than others, obviously, and it's just really fun to set those traps up and wait for them to come in and kill them in creative ways. You can combine traps and, you know, have like one guy slam into a wall and drop like a huge ball on his head. I mean, it was a lot of fun. I love those games. That is a subjective pick. Final Fantasy VIII, I'm also throwing that in there. That too is a subjective pick. I already talked about that. I would have preferred Final Fantasy VIII over 7, but if they thought about throwing 2 on here, I think you got to have Final Fantasy 7 and you got to take your pick of Tactics or 8. That's just me. A lot of people love 9 as well, so that's a big thing. That's one, again, some of these are subjective. Some of them, you know, I think just most fans would have liked. Parappa the Rapper, I think, how do you not have Parappa the Rapper? I mean, it's just, it's an amazing game. Well, it was at the time, right? Like, a lot of people were playing that game. They loved it, and it didn't make the list. I believe that's 12. believe that's 12. I've never really been the greatest at math, but I think we do have 12. This is a very disappointing list for me. This is a very disappointing list, and the games that they do have outside of the 8 that I mentioned should stay. I'm not feeling that. Some of them are decent. I just think there's a better 20 that could have been made. I don't know if it's a licensing thing, they don't own the IP anymore or never did kind of thing. Some of these IPs are just kind of dead in the water and they can't contact the developer or something. I'm not sure, but I probably won't buy this thing. And if I do, it would probably be like on a sale or something for half off, because I'm too disappointed with the list. I don't see the need to buy this for what they're offering. Some of these games I've played countless times, and probably tens of hours or even hundreds of hours in a few of these games, and I don't know, it's not for me. I don't feel the need to go back and play even some of the better games anyway, so I'm not that interested, and a lot of it has to do with the actual list itself. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section. What would your list look like? Put me a list in the comments. I'll read them. I'll thumb them up. I'll like them and maybe even reply to them and be like, oh man, how did I forget that game? Like, yeah, absolutely. That game should be there. But let me know in the comment section what your 20 games would look like. Thank you guys for watching. You take care. Peace.